Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Today we are dealing with a situation that none of us, not the crew, not the passengers, and certainly not Emirates, could have ever anticipated. A sudden immigration rule change, an entire flight full of anxious travelers, and a decision that triggered absolute chaos just minutes before takeoff. Picture this: you've boarded your flight, settled into your seat, placed your headphones in, and mentally prepared for a long, comfortable journey. Then suddenly, your phone vibrates. A message pops up, and in an instant, you realize something is terribly wrong. This wasn't turbulence, this wasn't a technical issue. It was something far more frightening. A visa rule had changed overnight, and for many passengers on board, this wasn't just an update, it was a threat to their entire future. The rule that sparked a global shockwave. Just hours earlier, on September 20th, former President Donald Trump signed a proclamation announcing a drastic, never-before-seen increase in the cost of filing a new H1B visa petition. Not $5,000, not $10,000, but $100,000 up front. That's not a typo. A six-figure fee for a work visa application that typically costs between $2,000 and $5,000 today. This single announcement unleashed a wave of panic across the United States, especially among Indian professionals, who make up more than 70% of all H1B visa holders. For millions of families, the H1B isn't just paperwork. It's the foundation of their career, their stability, their dream of eventually securing a green card and building a life in the U.S. The Emirates flight meltdown. Now let's return to San Francisco International Airport. An Emirates flight headed to India had already boarded. The doors were nearly shut. Flight attendants were preparing for pushback. And then, phone after phone began buzzing. Tweets, alerts, breaking headlines. Passengers started reading out loud. Trump imposes $100,000 H-1B visa fee. Within seconds, confusion turned into panic. People stood up from their seats. Some rushed toward the aisle. Others demanded to speak with the crew. Multiple travelers insisted they needed to get off the plane immediately. Why? Because many believed that if they left the country now, even for a short trip home, they might not be able to return to the U.S. without paying a fee so large that it was practically impossible. Parents were crying. Workers were calling their employers. Students were contacting friends. The crew, completely blindsided, did their best to maintain order. The pilot came onto the intercom with the calmest voice possible. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand you are dealing with unexpected circumstances, and we will do everything we can to accommodate you. The flight, fully boarded and ready, was delayed for over 3 hours. Ground crews opened the doors and began the slow, complicated process of removing panicked passengers who refused to risk being locked out of the United States. Eyewitnesses began filming. Videos soon flooded X and Instagram, showing crowded aisles and heated conversations. One traveler wrote, "An international flight full of Indian passengers going home for Durga Puja had completed boarding when the H-1B rule change broke. People panicked and begged to get off." The tech industry goes into crisis mode, but the panic didn't stop in the skies. On the ground, inside boardrooms and office buildings across Silicon Valley, executives began issuing internal alerts. Employees on H-1B visas were reportedly told, "Do not leave the U.S. If you are abroad, return immediately. Avoid travel until further notice." Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, and JP Morgan employ thousands of H-1B workers. These individuals build software, manage cybersecurity, design AI systems, and lead major innovation efforts. Without them, America's technological edge would take a significant hit. This new rule felt like a rug pulled out from under an entire community and the corporations that depend on their skills. So, let's talk about what $100,000 really means. For a big corporation, the cost is, yeah, painful but still manageable. But for startups and mid-sized companies, it's just devastating. And for individual workers, it's honestly life-altering. To many immigrants, the H1B is not just a visa. It's a career path, a home, a chance at permanent residency, stability for their children, and, well, a future in the world's most powerful economy. When the rules change overnight, everything changes with it. Rent payments, school plans, medical insurance, even long-term savings. Immigration attorneys reported a flood of emergency calls. People were begging for advice, asking, should I fly back now? Will my pending application still count? What happens if I'm stuck outside the country? For many, this wasn't just policy. It was panic, real fear, real consequences. Several hours after the chaos began, the White House responded online. A spokesperson clarified, "This is not an annual fee. It is a one-time petition fee only." But you know, this clarification didn't do much to calm the storm. Because when people see a six-figure number attached to the visa they depend on, the emotional reaction often overshadows the explanation. Questions still lingered. Would existing H1B holders be affected later? Would renewals also increase soon? Would other visas face similar price hikes? Was this just the beginning? The uncertainty was actually more frightening than the policy itself. To understand the weight of this moment, you need to understand the H1B program's importance. Created in 1990, the H1B visa was designed to help U.S. companies fill highly specialized roles, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and healthcare. Over the decades, H1B workers have powered Silicon Valley, built apps used by billions, contributed to breakthroughs in medicine and AI, founded startups now worth billions, and strengthened America's global competitiveness. In fact, more than half of U.S. tech unicorns were founded by immigrants, many of whom started their careers on H1B visas. So when a rule suddenly slaps a $100,000 barrier onto the program, it doesn't just affect workers. It affects innovation, competitiveness, and honestly, the future of entire industries. Immigration experts worldwide began weighing in. Some predicted companies would move jobs overseas. Others said Canada, Australia, and Europe would attract frustrated U.S. talent. Many warned that this could fracture the stability of the American tech workforce. Meanwhile, countries like Canada, which offers a much easier visa pathway, began seeing an immediate spike in immigration inquiries. Workers who once dreamed of settling in the U.S. were suddenly reconsidering their future. Perhaps the most emotional impact was felt by families. Children on H-4 visas, spouses dependent on H-1B workers, students hoping to transition into employment, all were left wondering what their future would look like. For many, the American dream has always required patience, sacrifice, and years of hard work. But with this rule, the dream suddenly felt more expensive and more fragile than ever before. The rule is officially in effect. Workers, families, and companies are scrambling to adjust. Attorneys are flooded with questions. Airports are bracing for more confusion, and thousands of H-1B workers are waiting to see what comes next. One thing is certain. This policy has changed the atmosphere surrounding immigration in America. Whether this is the beginning of a new era or just a temporary storm remains to be seen. For ongoing updates, keep watching Worldline Analysis News. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe to Worldline Analysis and tap the bell to get notified whenever we post more content.